What if I told you that the stroke that will hospitalize an American grandfather tomorrow morning is already happening right now, and his body is doing everything it can to warn him? In the United States, almost 800,000 people will have a stroke this year. Most of them did not wake up that morning feeling fine and then suddenly collapse. Their bodies sent signals for 24 hours, sometimes longer, and almost every one of those signals was dismissed, explained away, or slept through. I have spent years sitting across from families in hospital corridors listening to them describe the day before. He said he had a headache. She dropped her coffee cup. He went to bed early because he felt off. These were not random moments. They were the brain calling for help in the only language it knew, and nobody was listening. Today, I want to show you that language so when your body speaks, you can hear it. Before we dive in, if you haven't subscribed yet, I recommend you hit that button and turn on the bell so you never miss another health tip made just for you. If you enjoy this video, type 1 in the comments. If not, type 0 to let me know how I can make better content for you. 1. Why a stroke is never really sudden. Here is something most people don't understand, and it changes everything about how you think about stroke. When a stroke happens, it almost never starts at that moment. It started years ago, quietly, in the walls of your blood vessels. What people call sudden is really the final second of a long, slow story. There are two kinds of stroke you need to know about. One is hemorrhagic, where a blood vessel in the brain bursts and blood spills into the tissue. The other is ischemic, where a vessel gets blocked and the brain area downstream loses its blood supply. Roughly 85% of all strokes in this country are ischemic, and that is the kind that gives you warning. That is the kind we can actually do something about. Now think about what your brain demands. It weighs about 3 pounds, only 2% of your body, but it burns through 20% of the oxygen you breathe and 25% of the sugar in your bloodstream. It does not store fuel. It needs a constant delivery every second for your entire life. Cut that delivery for even 4 to 6 minutes, and brain cells in that zone begin to die in ways no medicine on earth can bring back. This is why every minute counts during a stroke. But here's the part that should change how you live. Those blood vessels did not fail overnight. They have been wearing down for 10, 20, sometimes 30 years. Cholesterol settling into the walls, inflammation eating away at the lining, plaque slowly narrowing the channel where blood is supposed to flow freely. By the time a stroke hits, the road was already in terrible shape. The stroke was just the final pothole that finally stopped traffic. This is why I never tell my patients, your stroke came out of nowhere. Strokes do not come out of nowhere. They announce themselves, they send signals. And in the 24 hours before the main event, your body sends some of the loudest signals of your entire life. The problem is, almost nobody is taught what those signals look like, so they get dismissed as tiredness, stress, or just getting older. And that brings us to the most important question of this entire video. What is your brain actually doing during those final 24 hours, and why does almost everyone miss it? 2. The 24-hour warning window most people sleep through. Here is a phrase you need to learn because it could one day save your life. Transient ischemic attack. Doctors call it a TIA. Most folks call it a mini-stroke, and in plain English, it is your brain sending up a flare before the real fire starts. A TIA happens when a small clot or a piece of plaque temporarily blocks an artery feeding your brain. For 30 seconds, maybe 5 minutes, sometimes up to 10, blood flow stops to a small region. You feel something strange, your vision goes dark in one eye, your hand goes numb, your words get tangled, and then it passes. The clot breaks apart or shifts, blood flow returns, and you feel normal again. You think, well, that was odd, and you move on with your day. That is exactly the mistake that costs people their lives. Here is what the research shows clearly. After a TIA, the risk of a full stroke shoots up dramatically. Roughly 1 in 5 people who have a TIA will have a major stroke within the next 90 days. And almost half of those strokes happen within the first 48 hours. The most dangerous window is the first 24 hours. That is your golden window. That is when everything can still be prevented if you act. The cruel part is how easy these warnings are to dismiss. They are short. They are strange. They pass on their own. And most people in their 60s and 70s have learned to brush off small symptoms because they have lived through so many false alarms. But a TIA is not a false alarm. A TIA is your brain telling you, very politely, that the system is failing and the next event may not be polite at all. In the next part of this video, I am going to walk you through exactly what those final 24 hours look like, hour by hour. You are going to see how the warnings start small and build, and you are going to recognize at least one of them from your own life or from someone you love. If you're still watching and finding these insights helpful, please comment number 1 below to let me know you're with me. Now let's move on to point number 3. 3. The strange tiredness. Nobody connects to a stroke. The first warning in our 24-hour timeline starts roughly a full day before the stroke hits, and it is the one almost nobody connects to anything serious. It feels like tiredness, not the regular kind you shake off after a good night's sleep, but a heavy, foggy, I am not myself today feeling that settles over you for no reason at all. You did not work harder yesterday. You did not skip meals. You slept your usual hours, and yet you feel drained in a way that does not match anything you actually did. Here is what is happening inside you. When a plaque in one of the arteries feeding your brain becomes unstable, when it starts to crack or inflame around the edges, your body releases inflammatory chemicals into the bloodstream. Blood flow to certain regions of the brain becomes uneven. Not blocked yet, but irregular enough that the brain is running on slightly less fuel than it needs. You do not feel a sharp symptom because no single area has shut down. You just feel wrong. The problem is that after 60, almost everyone has learned to live with fatigue. You blame it on age, on the weather, on your medications, on a bad night. Most of the time you are right. But when this kind of tiredness arrives without explanation, lasts more than half a day, and feels different from your usual fatigue, pay close attention. Check your blood pressure right then. Write down when it started for your doctor. Tell someone in your household so a second pair of eyes can watch you over the next few hours. Because in about 6 hours, your brain is going to try a louder signal. And this next one frightens people far more than they let on. 4. Microsleeps and brief mental blackouts. When your brain skips a beat. About 12 to 18 hours before a stroke, something subtle but very specific starts happening, and almost nobody catches it because it looks just like normal aging. These are called microsleeps, or brief mental blackouts. They last anywhere from 2 to 10 seconds. You are reading the newspaper and suddenly you cannot remember what you just read. You are in the middle of a sentence and the next word will not come. You are watching television and for a few seconds you are simply not there. Here is the important distinction. This is not forgetting. Forgetting is when you cannot retrieve information you stored. What I am describing is absence. Your brain went offline. The light stayed on but no one was home. When you come back, you do not feel embarrassed about not remembering. You feel disoriented, like you just stepped out of a room you did not realize you had entered. What is actually happening inside is small. A brain region, usually in your frontal lobe or hippocampus, the areas that handle attention and short-term memory, loses blood flow for a few seconds. The supply returns, and you return with it. But each of those tiny interruptions means a clot is forming somewhere, breaking apart, and forming again. The whole system is becoming unstable. I know exactly why people hide this from their families. You are afraid your children will think you are losing your mind. You are afraid the word dementia will get whispered behind your back. I want you to hear me clearly. This is not the same thing as cognitive decline, and bringing it up with your doctor is not weakness. It is exactly what a smart patient does. In the next 6 hours, your brain switches from quiet signals to something you cannot ignore. 5. A headache that doesn't feel like your usual headaches. About 12 to 6 hours before a stroke, your brain delivers its third warning, and this one comes in a form most people have learned to ignore. A headache. But not your usual headache. This part matters, so listen carefully. A pre-stroke headache feels different from any headache you have had before. The location is wrong. The intensity comes on faster than your typical pain. It might sit behind one eye when your usual headaches sit across the forehead. It might wrap around the back of your skull when your usual pain stays in the temples. People describe it as feeling like their head is about to split, or like a thumb is pressing hard from the inside. Some patients tell me the kitchen light suddenly felt too bright or the television too loud at normal volume. Here is what is happening. When a plaque in a brain artery starts to become unstable, the pressure inside that vessel shifts in ways the body is not used to. The membranes surrounding your brain, the meninges, are full of pain receptors. When those receptors get pulled or stretched by abnormal vascular pressure, you feel it as a headache that does not match anything you have had before. Sometimes vision changes show up too. Blurry edges, heavy eyes, or a world that feels just slightly out of focus. Here is your action plan. Do not mask this with ibuprofen and move on with your day. Ask yourself one simple question. Is this the kind of headache I have had before? If the answer is no, check your blood pressure right then. If the top number is 180 or higher, call 911. If you also have any vision changes, go to the emergency room without waiting. You know your body. When something feels truly wrong, trust it, because the clock is ticking. And in the next 6 hours, your body stops being subtle. 6. When your body suddenly doesn't listen. The coordination drift. We are now 6 to 2 hours before the stroke, and your body starts doing something strange. It stops listening to you. Not always, not dramatically, but just enough that you notice, and just enough that you brush it off. You reach for your coffee cup, and your fingers do not close around the handle quite right. You step over the bathroom mat, and your foot clips the edge. You try to say your grandson's name, and a different name comes out. Then you correct yourself. You blame the carpet, the cup, the morning fog. None of those are the real reason. Here is the medical truth behind it. The brain regions that control fine motor coordination and language production are extremely sensitive to small drops in blood flow. Before a stroke fully blocks an artery, those regions start operating at reduced capacity. Not broken, just unreliable. The signals from your brain to your right hand or your left foot get slightly garbled. The words you reach for in your speech center come out almost right, but not exactly right. The most important detail I can teach you is this: these drifts are usually one-sided. If your right hand keeps dropping things while your left hand is fine, that is a vascular signal. If your left foot keeps catching the rug while your right foot moves cleanly, that is a vascular signal. The brain is asymmetrical. Trouble in one hemisphere shows up on one side of the body. This is when you run the FAST test at home. Look in the mirror and smile. Is one side of your face drooping? Raise both arms. Does one drift downward? Say a full sentence out loud. Does it come out clearly? If any answer worries you, call 911. Not your daughter, not your neighbor, 911, because in the next 2 hours, your brain may send its final warning. And that one decides everything. 7. The final alarm. When your brain has minutes to save itself. We are now in the last 2 hours. This is the most critical window of the entire timeline, and where most people make the mistake that costs them their independence, their speech, or their lives. In this final window, your brain sends one last warning. Doctors call it a transient ischemic attack. Most folks call it a mini stroke. A small clot temporarily blocks an artery feeding your brain, and for 30 seconds to 10 minutes, something dramatic happens. One side of your face droops. You lose vision in one eye like a curtain coming down. You try to speak and the words will not form. Your hand goes completely numb. Then it all passes. The clot shifts, blood flow returns, and you feel normal again. This is the moment that determines everything. People sit down and say, "Thank God that passed." That sentence is the most dangerous sentence in stroke medicine, because once a TIA happens, your risk of a full stroke in the next 24 hours rises sharply. Up to half of strokes that follow a TIA happen within 48 hours. The clot that broke apart will reform. The next time, it may not move. Here is exactly what to do. Call 911 immediately, even if you feel completely fine. Do not drive yourself to the hospital. Call the ambulance because treatment can start in the rig. Do not take aspirin on your own. Without a CT scan, no one knows if you are having an ischemic stroke or a bleed, and the wrong medication can kill you faster. If you live alone, call 911 first, your family second. In that order. A word for my patients on Medicare. Emergency stroke transport is covered. Do not let fear of a bill cost you your brain. Now that you know the 24 hours, let me show you what has been quietly damaging your blood vessels for years. Important warning. Before we move on, there is one warning I have to give you separately because it doesn't fit inside the 24-hour timeline. Between 14 and 25% of all strokes happen during sleep. We call these wake-up strokes. The person goes to bed feeling normal or maybe just a little off, and someone finds them in the morning unable to move one side of their body or unable to speak. The danger here is brutal because the clock for emergency treatment starts when the symptoms began, and no one knows when that was. Most wake-up stroke patients miss the window for clot-busting medication entirely. If you live alone, this is the warning I want you to hear most clearly. Tell someone, a child, a neighbor, a close friend, to check on you every morning by 9 a.m. One simple phone call each morning could save your life and your independence. If you're still watching and finding these insights valuable, please comment number 1 below to let me know you're here. Now let's keep going with point number 8. 8. What's actually destroying your blood vessels from the inside? There are 4 enemies attacking your blood vessels right now, and once you understand them, you have real power over your stroke risk. The first enemy is high blood sugar. The inside of every artery in your body is lined with a microscopic layer called the endothelium. Think of it like the non-stick coating on a good frying pan. When that coating is intact, blood flows smoothly. When it is damaged, things start sticking. High blood sugar, so even mildly high, the kind we call prediabetes, slowly burns holes in that lining over the course of years. Cholesterol, platelets, and inflammatory cells move in and build the plaques that eventually cause strokes. By the time someone is diagnosed with diabetes, this damage has often been happening for a decade. The second enemy is smoking. And yes, this includes if you quit years ago. Tobacco smoke delivers thousands of chemicals straight into your bloodstream, hitting that endothelium like sandpaper. At the same time, nicotine and carbon monoxide make your blood thicker and stickier, so clots form more easily. Smokers carry 2 to 4 times the stroke risk of non-smokers. The good news, that risk drops steadily after you quit, but the vessel walls take years to recover. The third enemy is blood pressure, and here's where I have to clear up a dangerous myth. Most people believe only high blood pressure causes strokes. The truth is harder. Yes, chronic high pressure damages vessel walls and drives plaque growth. But an ischemic stroke often happens when blood pressure drops, at night in your sleep, and a narrowed artery can no longer push blood through. That is why many strokes are discovered at 6 a.m., not 3 p.m. The fourth enemy is the one you cannot avoid: age after 60. Your blood vessels become less flexible. Your brain's ability to bounce back from a small injury weakens. The same risk factors you carried at 45 do twice the damage now. That is no reason to be afraid. It is a reason to take the 3 tests I am about to walk you through. 9. What to do in the next 24 hours. A step-by-step plan. Now you need a clear plan to follow if any of these warning signs show up in your life. Think of this as your stroke protocol. 6 steps you can prepare for today while you are still healthy. Step 1. Do not be alone. If you live by yourself, identify one neighbor, one friend, or one family member who can be at your door within 15 minutes. Tell them today that they may get a call from you. People who experience a stroke while alone are far more likely to suffer permanent disability simply because no one was there to call for help. Step 2. Do not drive yourself anywhere if you suspect something is wrong. Losing your vision or the use of one hand for a few seconds at highway speed can kill you and other people. Medicare covers emergency transport when a stroke is suspected. The ambulance is not just a ride, it is a moving emergency room where treatment can begin before you reach the hospital. Step 3. Measure your blood pressure immediately. Every household with someone over 60 should have a working blood pressure cuff. If the top number is 180 or higher, or the bottom number is 110 or higher, that is a hypertensive crisis. Call 911 right then. Step 4. Do not take aspirin or any blood thinner on your own. I cannot say this strongly enough. There are 2 kinds of stroke. One is from a clot, one is from a bleed. Aspirin helps the first and accelerates the second, which can kill you in under an hour. Only a CT scan can tell the difference. Step 5. While waiting for the ambulance, lie down flat with your legs slightly elevated. Keep your head neutral, not tilted forward or back. Avoid hot showers, alcohol, and cigarettes. Anything that suddenly changes how your vessels behave. Step 6. Keep a written list of every medication you take, including supplements, in a visible place. A kitchen drawer or the refrigerator door. When paramedics arrive, this saves them precious minutes that may save your brain. 10. The 3 tests. Every American over 60 should ask their doctor about. There are 3 tests every American over 60 should ask their doctor about, especially if you have any warning signs, any risk factor like high blood pressure, diabetes or smoking, or a family history of stroke. These are not exotic procedures. They are standard tests that Medicare covers when there is a medical reason for them, and together they tell you almost everything about your stroke risk. The first test is a carotid duplex ultrasound. The carotid arteries run up the sides of your neck and deliver most of the blood your brain uses. A duplex ultrasound looks at both the structure of those arteries and how blood is flowing through them. It is painless, takes about 30 minutes, and uses no radiation. The technician slides a probe along your neck and watches a screen. What they are looking for is plaque, fatty buildup that narrows the channel. If a carotid artery is more than 70% blocked, that is a serious finding. Surgeons can clean out the plaque in a routine operation called a carotid endarterectomy, which has prevented countless strokes in this country. The second test is hemoglobin A1C, sometimes written as HbA1c. This single blood draw tells you the average level of sugar in your bloodstream over the past 3 months. You cannot fool it by eating well for a day. Anything under 5.7% is normal. Between 5.7 and 6.4 is prediabetes, meaning your vessels are already being damaged, but no one has labeled it diabetes yet. At 6.5 or above, that is diabetes. If you have never had this test or your last one was over a year ago, ask for it at your next visit. The third test is a Holter monitor, a small device you wear for 24 hours that records every heartbeat. A normal office EKG only captures a few seconds. The Holter catches what hides between visits, especially atrial fibrillation, the most common dangerous rhythm in people over 60. In atrial fibrillation, the upper heart chambers quiver instead of beating, blood pools and clots form that can shoot up to the brain. People often have no symptoms. Once it is found, the right medication reduces stroke risk by 60 to 70%. That is one of the single biggest interventions in modern medicine. Now let me bring all this together so you walk away with a clear plan you can use. The body keeps the ledger. You hold the pen. Here's what I want you to take away when this video ends. After 60, the body forgives less than it used to. The vessels in your brain have been working faithfully for decades, and they remember every cigarette, every sleepless night, every meal that pushed your sugar a little too high. None of those moments felt important at the time, but the body keeps the ledger. The next 5 years of your life are being written right now by the small choices you make this week. Most strokes are not bad luck. They are the slow result of years going one direction, and they can be redirected even now by going the other way. You are not too late. You are not too old. You are exactly the person this information was meant for. Use it. Start today. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a comment with 1. If not, feel free to comment with 0. Your feedback means a lot to us. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more content like this. Thank you for watching, and here's to living life on your own terms.